All right. The Hrvoje show is transmitting live from somewhere on planet Earth. I'm joined by my weekly guest this week in the Americas, James Guzman, an American-born writer and insurance broker specializing in non-conventional markets and countries. He's the founder of the Borderless blog and podcast. That's borderlessblog.com. And if you need health insurance, you can get it at borderlesshealthinsurance.com. And you can also do consultations with James if you want to escape to Mexico. What's happening, Mr. James?
Hey, Hrvoje, you doing well? How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. What's new in the Americas?
Oh, well, man, lots of new stuff going on in the Americas. There's so many things to touch upon. I mean, before we get into that, I was going to ask you, did you see this this documentary that they're just starting to put out, The Anarchists? I thought a lot of my people that listen might know about that.
Oh, that's a good topic. You sent that to me, and it was the first that I saw. So this HBO trailer talking about Jeff Berwick and Anarchapulco. I mean, it was well made, and seeing the trailer, it's like I want to see. It's going to be like a 5 or 6 part series, so I'm interested to see it. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a 6-part series. So the first episode came out last weekend, and the trailer was pretty sensational. So I thought, okay, this might be something pretty crazy. But really, I mean, I thought that the first episode was. I don't know. It's kind of boring. I mean, for those that don't know, I was kind of instrumental in getting that. I was one of the first people that ever went to Acapulco under the whole dollar vigilante and with Jeff Berwick. And I went to the first 2 Anarchapulcos, and I was there for a lot of time before that. And so I was there before kind of they started with the people that came that they were interviewing for this movie went down there. So, I mean, I don't know. I thought that they really could have gone in different directions. It seems like they're just going into a direction where they're just going to be documenting the conference. But there was so much crazy stuff, and especially Berwick has been involved in so much stuff that, I thought that they could have really gone way more interesting directions with all the people that have lost money, all the projects that have blown up, just generally all the weird people that would come down there, and all the shenanigans of Jeff himself and other people. I thought they lost an opportunity to do that. Instead, they're kind of talking about these people's philosophy. And I mean, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of people that now, they stumbled across some things on the internet and they call themselves anarchists. A lot of other people fight about what anarchist means. I don't think that's a very interesting conversation, to be honest with you. There's lots of people that can call themselves anarchists if they want to. But, I think if people want to go into like anarcho-capitalism, which I think a lot of people that in these videos or the people that follow that type of stuff and go to Anarchapulco, if that's what they're interested in, I think they need to go to Mises.org, right? The Mises University, people like that. And that's where they're going to get better footing, because, just the kind of stuff that they sell, especially Berwick sells, where it's just like, oh, you do whatever you want to, and you can do drugs and hang out at strip clubs and don't care about anybody, and that's anarchism. That's not. I don't know anybody that would consider that to be any like real form of like anarchism in an academic sense. So, anyways, that's what I really wanted to point out about that.
Maybe if we could just go a step further and get some more of your thoughts on Berwick himself. For people who don't know, like, this was probably over a decade ago, when I first came to Mexico. I was a fan of a lot of websites, Lou Rockwell, Dollar Vigilante, and other stuff. And just for fun, I would send articles out. And for a time, I don't remember how long, the space of a number of months, maybe a year, maybe 2, I wrote articles for Dollar Vigilante for Jeff Berwick under the pseudonym.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, under the pseudonym Hrvoje Gato. Gato means cat, so George Cat, because I didn't want to use my name at the time, and they would often get reposted to Lou Rockwell. So you can still go to Lou Rockwell and type in Hrvoje Gato in the search, and you'll find those articles that I wrote many ages ago just for fun. And so he would. I think I had communicated with him by email then. And I said, I want to use a pseudonym. And he's like, okay, whatever. I think he actually came up with that. I don't even remember. But anyways, there's people still that are very fascinated with Berwick and the work he does in Dollar Vigilante. I think I even subscribed for a time to the Vigilante. But over time, after I saw stuff that leaked out, like the failure in Chile of I think it was Gulch, and then other things, I noticed a number of people have distanced themselves from him, and then some of his antics, like I've seen videos of him just being kind of I don't know, silly, wacky, and just I don't know. I don't know if you have any other further thoughts on Jeff and Vigilante.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of people these days, and there's usually there are people that are just new that like don't know anything, and they stumble across some of his videos, and they're like, oh, he seems like a cool guy, and then after a while, people are like, okay, maybe he's kind of weird, or I don't know, and so then they just say, well, he's entertaining, and but I wouldn't trust him with any money. That's what I hear people say a lot, or I wouldn't like actually trust him with anything. So I'm just like, okay, so you think he's a scumbag, but he's funny, like, I don't know. I think that, after a while, when just using this quote unquote anarchism, libertarianism, and whether you want to say it's just outright scams or just being incompetent, that you just lose everybody's money or you screw everything up because you're drunk or stupid or whatever, then, I mean, at some point you got to take responsibility, and just people that act like, oh, it's all cool, it's fine, because he's, he makes funny videos. I don't think that helps the cause anyway. If they're consider what they're doing to be anything that, like they're trying to push for something, some sort of a political cause or an apolitical cause, then just allowing that type of behavior, that, and thinking that it's funny or whatever. I don't know that helps anything.
Yeah, I think his videos are now primarily on BitChute, and I have to admit, I mean, they're entertaining. Once in a blue moon, I'll just check up and see what he's talking about, and I mean, he's entertaining and says like 90% of what most of us can agree with, regarding everything that's going on with the Great Reset. But I guess we could move on. Did you know that U.S. Latinos are unique as breakfast tacos? Have you heard?
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yeah. I saw her.
As an American Mexican, I'm offended, and apparently she was referring to Unidos US, this organization's president's work, commenting on the diversity of the Hispanic community, saying that this person helped build the organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community is as distinct as the bodegas of the Bronx, which she mispronounced, and as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio is your strength. And the National Association of Hispanic Journalists tweeted saying that they encourage the First Lady and her communications team to take time to better understand the complexities of our people and communities. We're not tacos. Our heritage as Latinos our heritage is shaped by various diasporas, cultures, and food traditions do not reduce us to stereotypes. I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, this whole Biden, because up until now it was really restricted to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and now like his wife Jill has caught Bidenism. I mean, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, there's so many things that are messed up with that statement. Yeah, I thought it was funny. She says bodegas, bodega in the Bronx. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't even think she knows what a bodega is, but and the blossoms in Miami are like, blossoms represent Cubans or something. I don't understand that. And and what's his name? The politician, the Cuban guy in Miami, Rubio, he changed his profile picture to like this Taco Bell taco, so that was kind of funny. But and the whole idea, they have this thing with the diversity is our strength, which is basically what she was saying. It's diversity is our strength, just like the United States' diversity is the strength. The Latino community's diversity is its strength, even because it's so diverse, meaning you have a Dominican in the Bronx, and you have a Miami person, a Cuban in Miami, and you have a Chicano in Texas, and that's what makes it so strong. That doesn't make any sense. This is something that people just spout out because I guess they're taught it in school or they hear it on TV or something. Diversity is a strength. That doesn't make any sense. Like a Dominican in the Bronx does not feel, a strong, like a cohesion, or like they're part of the same society as as a Chicano in southern Texas. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's completely different cultures, completely different people, different ethnicities, different history, everything. So it's not a cohesive people. And the whole idea that, well, they're different. So it's even the category of Hispanic is kind of questionable. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the idea that all these people are so different, and that's what makes it so strong as a community, I think that's something that people need to think again, because it doesn't make any sense after like 1 minute of thinking about it.
James, we're going to have to take a breakfast taco break. And while we're on break, you can check out James's website, borderlessblog.com. We'll be right back on TNT Radio. All right, and we're back with James Guzman of borderlessblog.com. And another piece of news that stood out to me was former Mexican President Luis Echeverria passed away. He was 100 years old. But the interesting part for me is that most people don't know that Luis Echeverria was Litempo 8. Litempo 8 was his CIA code name. He was a paid CIA agent and president of Mexico. The files are declassified. You can read them at National Security Archive, which is part of George Washington University. It's a fact. It's not a freaking conspiracy theory. And I've interviewed Jefferson Morley, the reporter and author who declassified those documents. It's in his book, Our Man in Mexico. He was recently on my TNT program here like a week or two ago discussing his latest books. But any thoughts on Luis Echeverria and him being a Mexican president and CIA agent, James? No,
I didn't. I did see that story, but I didn't know what too much about what you're saying there. So that's very interesting. I don't really have anything to add about that.
Yeah, I wonder if I don't think AMLO is a CIA agent. Maybe a president that follows him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Peña Nieto and Calderon were CIA agents. Would you?
No, they have to. Again, it's kind of like I think of that as kind of like the cartel thing. These intelligence agencies are kind of like cartels and governments. So, how much they work with different intelligence agencies, or whether they're completely beholden to them, whether they just work with them a little bit, it's anybody's guess.
And some bad news for us in Latin America is apparently the Eurovision Song Contest is going to launch in Latin America. Eurovision Song Contest Latin America will be produced by the producers of American Song Contest and Eurovision Song Contest Canada. And I don't even know why they're doing this, but okay. I don't know if you've seen some of the Eurovision stuff. For me personally,
I don't know what that is.
It's this lame song contest. And I think we talked about this when it came to the football the World Cup that's coming to North America. By the way, the guy you told me about on the Los Libertinos podcast, who mentioned he's going to be on TNT, I think this week. So Carlos, so that's going to be pretty cool. But again, I think this has.
You can ask
be,
him about the North American Union and football.
Yeah, I will. But I think this is just more of what we were talking about, how they're using culture and song, like it's sports in the other case, to further along this supranational regional integration. You know, if you have a European Union, then you have Eurovision, and I think it's just more of the same in this regard. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you could be right, and there's some stuff I wanted to talk about a little bit later too about that with some of the stuff that AMLO and Biden were talking about.
Actually, yeah, that was my next topic. Apparently, they finally met. No,
they were meeting today. This morning, AMLO had, AMLO had breakfast with the Duchess Harris, and then he went on to read from a piece of paper for like half an hour, while Biden was like half falling asleep, and it was pretty boring. So they did have their meeting today, and it was quite uneventful, actually. I don't know. Did you get anything out of it, or see any big points to come out of the meeting?
I think the question is, did AMLO have a breakfast taco with Jill? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I can't stop laughing about that. Yeah. No, I was looking for news because I just saw this very recently, as you said.
Yeah, there was one thing that of course, the main things they're talking about is immigration, right? So it's mostly immigration, the economy, things like that. And one of the things that they said that AMLO said that he would spend 1.5 billion, I believe that's dollars. Although it could be pesos. I just saw 1.5 billion. And so anyways, to create a smart border, to have more smart border technology to enforce the laws on the Mexican side of the border. So I thought that, the smart border might prick your ears up.
You said that AMLO said that?
Yep. Yeah, that was part of one of their agreements, because basically, this is becoming a thing for a lot of people in the United States. And although, it's the Republicans are saying, well, Joe Biden doesn't want to do anything he wants to have open borders. It's not really open borders. He has been more lax, and he's letting Title 42 expire, but he doesn't want, he is trying to, not look completely incompetent. So he's trying to get Mexico to do some stuff to stop so many of the migrants from flooding up to the United States. So that was one of the things that AMLO said he would do, is that part of the federal budget would go to creating more smart technology on the border.
Yeah, that's because I've talked about that before with Todd Miller on TNT, the border security complex, and how that's not what Todd says, but this is my personal conclusion. This is part of the whole New World Order system, where they want to, the U.S. is bringing it to all other countries, getting them to install these same sorts of prison planet, exit entry, smart border systems, totally controlled, totally digital. And it's interesting that AMLO's saying that. It's probably, as you said, more for not looking incompetent, and he probably doesn't grasp the full dimension of what this smart border tech is. And we're going to have to take a short news update. James will be right back. So I would agree with you, James, that there was nothing really that interesting when I was looking at this. AMLO was talking about gas being cheaper to purchase in Mexico, so Americans were going to Mexico to purchase gasoline, and Biden was boasting, saying the U.S. is the fastest growing major economy in the world, and it's like, come on, are you kidding me? And AMLO said he was going to bring up the Assange case, Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, up with Biden. Yeah. Assange said that nothing about that was reported. So really, there's nothing
Yeah.
so far.
Well,
interesting.
So one thing I did want to, to mention is that, so more about the whole situation with the immigration. So that seemed to be a big point. And what I thought was funny was another thing that AMLO said is that to help the inflation that the United States is experiencing, they should be awarding more working visas for Mexicans. So basically, like, import more cheap labor into the United States, and that's going to bring prices down. So, and that's going to help the situation. So, and so I want to say something else here with the immigration thing. So to just kind of finish it off with what I think about that. So, also, Abbott, the governor of Texas, he's always being pushed, I think, by his base. They're always saying that this is a political move, but to be, scaremongering about the border and all this. This is what people say. But I mean, I don't know if you consider it political. I mean, I think that his base wants this. His base has always wanted Republicans to act on enforcing the immigration regulations. They feel like there's way too many legal. A lot of people feel like there's way too illegal. A lot of people feel like there's too much legal immigration, just immigration in general. And so now Abbott has issued at the end of last week, he issued an executive order where he basically said that they can use the Texas National Guard and the police to, when they catch illegals, they bring them right to the border and basically ship them out. Okay, so now how it is kind of a cluster because they have to figure out whether, whenever they do catch somebody that's illegal, or if they're breaking the law, if they're waiting on an asylum visa, it's different people. So, if it's somebody that's completely illegal and they're supposed to be deported, then the police can't do anything about it. They have to call the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol has to deal with it. But they haven't really been doing anything. And a lot of times they just release them again. And so he issued an executive order, Abbott did. And so they just yesterday, they had their first incident of this where they had 75 of these people that they had caught, and they put them into school buses and just took them back to the border, and I guess gave them back to the, to go put them to cross the border back into Mexico. And I mean, I don't know what's stopping them from them just turning around and coming right back, so I don't know what how effective that's really going to be. But that's and so some of the things that I had written down here from the executive order itself, it said authorizing and empowering the Texas National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety to apprehend illegal immigrants who illegally cross the border between ports of entry and return them to the border. The Biden administration's decision to end Title 42 expulsions and the Remain in Mexico policy has led to historic levels of illegal crossings, with 5,000 migrants being apprehended over the July 4th weekend, creating a border crisis that has overrun communities along the border and across Texas. So 5,000 people were apprehended in one weekend, 2 weekends ago. And there's a lot of people. I mean, you can watch, just on the ground people doing YouTube videos and stuff like that. Then, I mean, this isn't like a made up thing. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of times the people at the border, they don't like it too much when they, there's like 50 people across, going across their land, but it doesn't bother them that much because they don't stay there. But there are just tons of people coming across, though. That's what they're all saying. And and then AMLO actually spoke up about this, and here's what he said. He said, it's not Abbott's legal responsibility to make that decision, but one of the federal government. Even though we are respectful of the sovereignty of other countries, we see that there are anti-immigrant campaigns for electoral purposes. I consider it immoral and political, and doing this is very vulgar, and it doesn't have a legal foundation because it's not up to the state's authorities. All right. So that was kind of a strong thing to say. And, I just, again, this is kind of what they say is that this is a political thing, that he's just trying to, pander to his base, which might be the case. But the fact is that the base does want something to be done about this. It's kind of like people think that Republicans are, fiscally conservative. I mean, they're really not that much fiscally conservative than the Democrats. They're not that really much tighter on the border than Democrats. If you look at the amount of people that are deported and stuff like that, this is just kind of a political thing that people say. But it is kind of a populist notion, or, a notion of the people that live in Texas and a lot of these border towns, that they should be doing something about this. And I don't know that, I just don't think that this is a good idea from AMLO's perspective to be calling everybody anti-immigrant and all this type of stuff, just because they want to have some sort of border protection. And even the Chicanos that live around the border, they're not into they don't like that. I can guarantee you. I mean, I would say more than half of the Border Patrol themselves are ethnically Mexican, and just the idea that these people are being racist or anti-immigrant, that's just not I don't think that that's a good angle to take, especially coming when we're seeing like the supposed like they had in the the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, the rise of the far right Latina and all these different Chicanos and people from Latin America that just are not buying into all the Democrat, kind of bullying talking points. So anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. And regarding the migration, I know Mexicans here that have been illegally in the U.S. and then they were caught or they returned, and then they're not allowed to go back, or if they want to apply for papers, they're forbidden for many, many years in doing so. So I guess that is, one form of punishment. Like, as you said, if they're kicked out and then, maybe their names are registered that they were illegal, and then, for 5 or 10 years, they cannot apply for a visa. And, maybe they've got friends and family there. And
a lot of times, mm-hmm. The cartel really has a firm grip on a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's basically giant human trafficking, on industrial scale, and they're getting. Another thing we forgot to mention, we were talking about the those 50 migrants that got burned up in the truck in San Antonio a couple weeks ago. Each of them paid at least $5,000 to get taken across, right? So that's a lot of money. All right. And it was just like one or two guys, and they took the money, cash, and then they just left them there to die. Right. So this is happening. Women are paying the money. They get raped. I think it's one of the highest amounts of rape and all this thing. So, there's a lot of bad stuff going on. And, again, I don't know what exactly the answer is, but just either acting like it's not going on or just calling it all racist or whatever. I just think that's a stupid angle.
Yeah. I had a few other stories. One was I just thought this was a bit ridiculous, going back to Mexico on the beach in Nayarit, where I've been, and I'm sure you've been. And we all know you've got those massage therapists on the beach, and in fact, and they're just people trying to make a living. And this was on Mexico News Daily, and you had National Guard, federal authorities, National Guard just went up, started taking down the massage tents, very like almost violently, and telling the women to just get out of Dodge. And these women were saying that the local government wouldn't give them the paperwork to license to work legally, and because it was taking so long. And I think it's just ridiculous that you've got the national people just trying to make an honest living giving massages on the beach, and you've got sending in the National Guard to attack these working class people who've got families to feed. Meanwhile, turning a blind eye to the cartels and other things. Like, this is the last thing that they should be doing, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, you see that. That's just a normal thing that like governments do. You know what I mean? And it's the corrupt governments do. It's horrible to see. It's kind of like, I don't know if you saw that, but last week there was a guy in the subway that's been in New York City that's been there for decades, and he has these little cats that like dance, like these electronic cats, and then he plays the saxophone, and then just no warning, nothing. Like 6 cops just come over there, grab him and arrest him and break all his cats, and it's just horrible. You know what I mean? And you see, that's what the kind of the stuff is great about a lot of parts of Mexico is, you can, for the most part, if you just massages, selling stuff, getting on your feet, it's easy to do that. If people that need to make a little bit of money to survive or do that, nobody really bothers you. And so, sometimes they try to shake down people, especially in tourist areas. I don't know, some of the police around those areas, usually they like to, in my experience, they like to try to shake down the locals and not mess with the tourists so that they can get some extra money or something. And it's not nice to see, you know what I mean?
So much for anarchy and anarchism in Mexico. Although this is not usual, as you say. No. Maybe it's not so unusual. Maybe it'll start happening more often. But we're going to have to take our second breakfast taco break. You can find James's website at borderlessblog.com. We'll be right back on TNT Radio, and we're back with James Guzman. Another concerning developments in Mexico is they're starting to talk again about COVID-19 84. The news media is reporting positive. I'm trying to translate simultaneously that how would you say positive cases in Mexico are at their highest or higher than the first wave. Are you serious? 2020, and this is absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, we know this is ridiculous, but the concern is they're doing this whole show again, and that could mean the same responses or worse as we had previously. Are you picking up any such signals, or are you worried they'll lock us down again and force us to wear masks and inject us?
I mean, from where I'm at, I don't see anybody doing that again, personally, but obviously I could be wrong about that. I just, I mean, they always have this thing that they can use now to try to convince people, oh, we got a new thing, we got to get a new shot, or got to be afraid because here comes the flu season or whatever. But as far as the extreme strict controls, I think where I'm at, everything is, everybody's kind of, I don't think they're going to go for that again. And, I mean, I'm over here, I just had to do some stuff today, government offices and, utility offices and all kinds of stuff, medical offices, whatever. Nobody says anything if you don't wear a mask. Don't do, nobody really, people do if they want to, but as far as here on the ground in San Miguel de Allende, it's all that the mandate stuff is gone as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I hope so, but again, I'm fearing them.
What about Guadalajara? What's going on in Guadalajara as far as that goes?
The COVID-19 84 protocols.
Yeah, and I know that they had the whole state of Nayarit. I guess they just gave up on the passport they were trying to do, the check everybody's vaccination status.
But were they recently in Nayarit trying to check people's?
No, that was status? A while ago, but I guess they just gave up completely. I wasn't sure if it was official that they gave up or what was going on with that.
I mean, all I'm seeing right now is what I mentioned, that the news is amping up again this COVID psychological terror, number one. So that's really a bad sign. And number two, they keep pushing the vaccines is for kids now to take in Jalisco. again, that's a bad sign. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, they got
that,
the kids. No.
yeah, otherwise it's almost like normal, but still in key places like airports and public transport, which I don't normally take. You have to wear masks, and you still see people wearing, not that many, but there's still people wearing masks, and it's really annoying, it's really, because it's a symbol of tyranny,
I think
totalitarianism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, I think that's something that basically we're going to have to live with. People have been screwed up mentally for the rest of their life, and there are going to be some people that are just going to voluntarily want to walk around with a mask on for the rest of their lives.
Well, I mean, this is, we've gone through social re-engineering, brainwashing, and these people might be wearing it for a long time. But I'm fearing, again, they might lock us down. The European MEP that I've cited before, Mislav Kolakušić, says they're going to take us to war or do the pandemic again this fall. Many people are smart people in independent media are discussing this. Another interesting story. I don't know if you've been paying attention to our friend Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, but there's been New York Times and Boston Globe talking about just the other day Nayib Bukele's failed Bitcoin experiment in El Salvador. His ambitious bet ran head on into the great crypto crash of 2022. I don't know the details, but I mean, it's, from my perspective, it's not looking good for him at the moment, although he seemed very confident, almost as if he knew something that we didn't know. I'm not seeing that right now, but I don't know if you've got any thoughts on El Salvador.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is this is not just like a personal hodler, you know what I mean, that's just going to say that, they like the fundamentals and they're going to hold it for the next 20 years. I mean, he's pretty much betting the El Salvadorian economy on Bitcoin, and he also was borrowing bonds that he has to pay back to foreigners and other things like that. So I haven't seen anything that it's like really detrimental. I think that somehow he's staying afloat so far, even with the big drawback in Bitcoin, and it's just been hovering around 20,000. It's been pretty incredible. I would think it would either, budge either way, but it hasn't. It's just been sticking around 20,000, which is interesting. And so, it seems like at least for the moment, he's able to keep that afloat, but it could come to a point where, if it goes any lower, then, that's going to he's not going to be able to, pay for public services and things like that. And a lot of the money that the government money that he spent is going to be lost. That's taxpayer money and borrowed money. And so people are not going to be happy about that. So it could be not a good thing, and speaking of Bitcoin, I just saw this, that they installed a Bitcoin ATM in Cancun, and there's a company, Crypto Flamingo, that has one in Mexico City, Cancun, and in Guadalajara. And those are 3 new Bitcoin ATMs now. So they got one over there where you're at.
That is interesting. Although I don't think I'd ever use it. I haven't really touched the little Bitcoin that I have, and now it's crashed, as you can see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think there were projections from Bloomberg citing one of the big banks, Goldman Sachs or whoever, that they were forecasting it to go back up again. But I loved your post on Facebook. You had a great post on Facebook about your forecast for the future. But any further thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows about most markets. So that's one of the first things you should learn about finance, investing. If anybody acts like they 100% know what's going to happen, then you should run, because they're trying to, they're selling you BS, because nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. There's way too many variables, especially in a complex economy, for anybody to know which way markets are going to go. which way individual companies are going to go, how people are going to react to different things in the market. You can, you can see it as kind of speculation or, some sort of a thing like that you can try to do it, but just know that there's no sure thing. That's the point. And that's just for regular, markets that are regulated and have been around for hundreds of years. We're talking about Bitcoin, something that's been around, about 10 years. And, just so many unknowns. I don't think that any of the historic markers are that significant, really, because it's such a short time period. And so it could go anywhere. I mean, it could go to $100, it could go to $1 million, or it could just stay where it's at. I mean, so I don't think anybody knows what's going on with this thing. It's still, the idea that it's just, it's a done deal, that this is going to, Bitcoin, because of its fundamentals and its cryptography and this type of stuff, that it's going to be something that's definitely here forever and is going to save us from all the tyrannical governments and all this type of stuff. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, it could be useful in the future. The thing is, to even begin to form some sort of a parallel economy with that currency, it first starts within just kind of trade and a unit of account and that kind of stuff. I don't think that it's held out very well as a store of money, a store of value. Obviously, if something flies all over the place like that, that's not a good store of value. So that's been a big problem. And people say, well, if there becomes higher adoption, then it'll eventually become a store of value. But if it's so volatile, it's never going to have high adoption. But so it's kind of, chicken and the egg type of thing. But, another thing is that you have to create a debt market. And, that's how economy runs. People borrow money from others in order to have, they borrowed capital from one person to start projects, buy houses, build things, other types of stuff. So you have to have accumulated capital, and other people have to be able to borrow that at interest. And nobody is going to borrow like denominated in Bitcoin. Say, say I want to buy a house, get a mortgage for 20 years, 30 years. I'm not going to, no, there's nobody that's going to lend me, and I'm probably not going to borrow money for 30 years in Bitcoin just because it's so volatile. You're really taking a giant risk. So, if you were to have a financial institution where you actually, make money by lending out money, then, that's just, it's not going to be an option to use Bitcoin like that. And so that until something gets more stable and people are willing to denominate prices and denominate loans in Bitcoin itself, then it's not the actual currency that people are using in the economy that they're working. They're just using it as a store of value, which again, it's not working great as. And then they switch it out for some sort of a currency that they're then using in the economy, which, by the way, governments force you to use the local currencies for utilities. A lot of times, like here in Mexico, you have to buy utilities from the government utility companies, and you have to pay in pesos. I can't go and pay for that in Ether or something. So as long as the government creates that demand for things that, you have to pay taxes in it, you have to buy utilities in it, then there's always going to be that demand. So you have a demand side pull for this fiat currency. So no matter what, if you live in that society, you're going to have those dollars or those pesos. And so you're going to have to change out whatever fiat that you're holding in order to use it to to not only pay your own bills and pay your own taxes, but also down the line, to pay other people, whether you have people working for you, even whether it's, a gardener or maid or something like that. What do you think they're going to do? They need that money to go pay their utilities, and so on. So everybody needs those fiat dollars, and that creates demand in the economy. And so that's another kind of hurdle that Bitcoin or any of these currencies are going to have to overcome somehow.
Yeah, and I was going to mention there was a story as well. Why have cryptocurrencies become so popular in Latin America? of all the countries and regions in the world that have embraced crypto, there are a few that have done so quite as enthusiastically as Latin America has. And I think the point is a number of countries have been forced to use it because of inflation devaluation. And so that has helped to accelerate the adoption and broader support for cryptos across the continent of Latin America. So who knows? Maybe there will be a second or third wind, and we'll see this crypto revolution. But again, in my view, that's paving the way to the cashless society. James, where are the best places for people to find you online?
Yeah, come on to borderlessblog.com, get on the email list. That's usually the best way to keep up with me forever in case I get taken down or changed or something like that. So yeah, come and see my blogs, see the podcasts and videos or whatever else I do. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
All right. We'll enjoy the breakfast tacos. We'll talk next week. Yes. Stay tuned here on TNT Radio.